at thing.
It sounded great last week.
It did.
It did.
The magic of actually recording our audio.
Yes,
Okay, I'm recording.
I'm recording.
I'm recording.
All right, good. Let's get going. Got this, got the show notes. Don't need this. It is January 15, 2015. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to talk about all the new iOS, tvOS, and watchOS betas, OS 10 betas as well, and the week in Apple news. This is the iMore Show. Joining me this week, we have about ready to head out, put on her Deer Hunter hat, and get into her Mind Palace, Serenity Caldwell. How are you, Ren?
Hello, I'm doing great. I'm excited to start the MIT Mystery Hunt this weekend. It's so much fun.
So, I mean, you debut at Emerson, you go to MIT. This is a very collegiate week for you.
It is a very collegiate week for me, weirdly enough. Well, the MIT mystery stuff is rarely collegiate.
Or collegial.
Lots of solving puzzles. Yeah, lots of solving puzzles about memes.
Ah, nice. Also joining us, we have Georgia Dow. How are you, Georgia?
Gipta!
Wait, is that a Star Wars reference?
No.
Okay.
Nice try, though.
Street Fighter. Street
Oh,
Fighter.
of course, yeah, Street Fighter. I could go with a good Hadouken.
I don't Hadouken.
All right. So, this week, fun week, crazy week. I saw the Steve Jobs movie. Very sad. Super good writing on Aaron Sorkin's part. It was just the equivalent of watching a movie about how Abraham Lincoln is a bad gardener.
Yeah, I made the decision not to see the movie, despite the fact that I love Kate Winslet and I love Aaron Sorkin's writing. Instead, John August has this great app called Weekend Read, where he puts up screenplays that are in awards consideration. So as soon as Steve Jobs went up on Weekend Read, I bookmarked it as okay, I'm going to come read this instead of actually seeing the movie. And I think that was the right decision. Because reading it, there's something about reading something that gives it an extra layer of removal than actually watching it on the screen. And I was able to see, this is the story that Aaron Sorkin wants to tell. And yeah, I guess Steve Jobs is a character, but it's not really, again, for a movie called Steve Jobs, it's not really about Steve Jobs. It's about a guy's relationship with his daughter.
Yeah,
and then there's some tech stuff, but mostly it's about a guy's relationship with his daughter.
A world-famous technology visionary, and we're going to concentrate on how bad a father he was. And then Wozniak, so underserved. Wozniak shows up every time for like a decade. Please acknowledge the Apple II. Like, if there had been an iPhone segment in there, Woz would be in the audience saying, please acknowledge the Apple II during the iPhone debut.
Yeah, I mean, they sort of tied it in, and I can understand where it's coming from. Again, I feel like the script feels more nuanced than I'm sure the eventual movie did. And yeah, considering all I really wanted to do was read some new Aaron Sorkin, the script was the way to go.
Yeah, there were some nice Sorkinisms in there.
You see, it doesn't bother me that it wasn't about that the storyline was mainly about him and his daughter. I think that the problem is that it's not like his daughter telling this story, so who knows how true any of this is.
Oh, it's completely fabricated. It's completely wrong.
But that's the biggest disservice that it's doing, is that when you're talking about real life people and not telling their story, that's an issue for me, because it's like, think about someone telling the story of Rene Ritchie and it's not true, and you're being maligned in public, which happens so often.
Rene Ritchie, right?
That's absolutely true. But which is such a hard thing to have to go through, and I deal just so much in therapy with people being maligned in public in various ways, and it's just they don't have permission to do that. And so any stories that are autobiographical by nature, but they're not actually their biographies, I want to touch not really at all.
It should be like Citizen Kane, just make up a name.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Make a story that's about someone very similar and then tell that story, and then I would be fine with it. But I think that very few people are going to research to find out what are the ins and outs. And we do know that, his fathership skills might not have been the greatest, and I think that that is a story to tell, but I don't think that it's a fair story to tell without actual really.
I mean, there are so many bad fathers out there. There's very few people who have changed consumer electronics the way Steve Jobs. I wanted to hear his vision for network. There's just so many interesting things you could do about Steve Jobs.
Oh, sure. Although I will say, I am glad that it wasn't a straight biopic because at this point we've seen so many
So many.
biopics.
But what about a play? What about theater?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the fun thing that came out this week is that Steve Jobs is heading to Broadway because we weren't content with seeing him on the silver screen. There is a show called Nerds, which actually premiered in 2005 at the I believe the New York Theater Festival, and then went to Philly in 2007, and then again in 2013. And apparently, it's what 11-year run is off and on run was not enough for its creators and producers. They're like, no, you know what? This is going to make a great Broadway musical. So it's coming to Broadway in April, and it's
No,
yeah,
no. Tell them to stop this. Tell them to stop. We're done. I'm done. Stop. End this.
exactly.
Don't
I'm
do
so
this anymore.
I'm so tired
Please.
I'm sure the writing is funny. I'm sure it's a satirical Bill and Ted style romp through the early electronics history, but I'm so tired of biopics, even if they're funny.
Sweet little nerds from Harvard, are we?
Yeah, exactly. Bill Gates is still alive. Steve Jobs has barely been in the ground like 5 years. The whole thing just feels, I don't know. This feels like Hollywood money grab to me, or Hollywood money grab, Broadway money grab. This says like, oh hey, these are people who get in the news, and maybe we can get some publicity if we do a new show that happens to have their names in it. And on top of that, the couple things annoy me. One, they're not kicking out the Allegiance, which is George Takei's baby, which is a beautiful musical about the internment camps in the 40s and 50s. That's going away to make room for Nerds. And Nerds is not just going to be a Broadway play about tech, it is going to be a tech-infused Broadway play. So there's going to be holographic projectors, and they're saying, oh, well, we're going to develop an app that you can interact with during the show to change the ending of the show. To which I have so many questions. Is it like every single song you press a vote? Is it like American Idol or like a Nielsen focus group where you're like, dee, 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 dee.
Is it a very model of a modern major debacle?
Yeah, oh my God. It's so ridiculous. Also, who wants to see smartphone screens when you're in a theater?
Yeah, I was
Like,
going to stop it.
I understand where they're coming from because they want people to get into theaters, and they want the attention, and they want the next big hit. But I mean, you only have to go a couple blocks down to see what Hamilton's doing at the Richard Rodgers, and I guarantee you, the reason why Hamilton is making waves is yes, it's sort of a biopic, but it's a biopic of a dude who's been dead for a couple hundred years, and there's no tech in audience's hands during the show, and hey, it's really good music, and it's interesting. It's not just I don't know, it feels so limp and lame to me.
I would completely go if it was like a choose your own adventure, and then we could like choose. Then we use our smartphones, and we're like, okay, Steve Jobs says no to the iPhone, and then we have to see what would happen depending on that, and that would be
alternate universe Nerds. Yeah, I mean,
that would do good. I would maybe go for that, but I'm just so done with. And I get it, the name's going to get press and the press is going to get the money. I fully understand that, but I'm done with it already. Can we have no more Steve Jobs movies, no more...
How about Angry Tim Cook? Are you happy with Angry Tim Cook lately?
Now, that I can get behind. So here we go. This would be a great musical. It is the true story of Tim Cook going down to Washington to fight for your rights of privacy, and him talking to all of the Washington elite and saying, you know what? You guys are supposed to be standing up for our rights, and you should be the ones that say there should not be backdoors so that all of your people are safe. That, to me, is a cool story that I can fully get behind and very true to life. So.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. So he basically accused them of being wishy-washy on encryption, and because they kind of, the FBI wants backdoors, and we know that backdoors, if you open them for the FBI, they'll be open for the Chinese security agency, the Russian security agency, hackers, criminals, organized crime.
Well, yeah, but it's to say, like, people shouldn't be giving up their rights in order to protect us against the chance few that might be doing something wrong.
Well, it's like
So
those the previous controversy, like everyone should just be fingerprinted, everyone should just give up their DNA. Those are the arguments of previous generations.
no, it's getting way too close to being a real life Minority Report. So you don't want to be, thought crimes should not be something, like if you're searching for something, that shouldn't be your, you should be innocent until proven guilty to that fact. And that doesn't mean that people should be, snooping around and dealing with it. As we've spoken before, I think mostly on Vector, your privacy and what could be then used against you depending on what you search for, what type of websites you go to, what type of things you're interested in for private time, these things could be used and are exceptionally powerful. And so this could be used in order to sway public opinion, in order to change people's votes, in order to make our lawmakers choose to vote in a certain area or
To
not. And
blackmail
so
them, yeah.
well, of course, or to out people that are doing things that you want to then control. Information is power, and it's so important for us to be able to have our privacy. And so it shouldn't be that we all give up our rights in case of the chance few. We shouldn't. The government shouldn't have the rights to all of our keys to all of our homes and to be able to snoop around our wallets just in case someone's in the house. It's supposed to go that if someone's in my house, then I call and I give you permission to come in to please protect me.
Hmm. The interesting thing here too is that it's just Tim Cook railing, and John Gruber pointed this out earlier today, that it's not the CEO of Microsoft or the CEO of Google or of Facebook or of any other of the giant industry companies. So far, Apple's doing it alone, and I hope Apple doesn't have to do this alone because it's important. I use Google for all my services. I want them fighting this just as hard.
Well, I think that Apple is often the one that's leading the way in these cases, and the lovely thing is Apple is able to, because of where they stand in the global system of the Internet of Things, but because they're in such a powerful position, because they have, their bankroll is so tight, they can stand upon principle and make sure that they fight for the rights that they believe are true. So I'm really happy that Tim Cook is doing it. I'm really happy for everyone else that really doesn't understand how important encryption is.
And the rights to privacy. Yeah, and Apple this week, there was one little vein of hypocrisy in all this, and that was Apple was still doing iAds. Apple originally tried to buy AdMob, but Google scooped it out from under them, so they bought another company, and that became iAds. Steve Jobs introduced it as a flagship feature, I think for iOS 5. I don't recall exactly, maybe 4.
Like that.
Yeah, something, and basically it was a way for developers because they wanted to promote free and cheap apps, and iAd was a way that you could subsidize the app, but it meant that Apple was sort of in the advertising business. They were never good at it. It never grew, but it was still something they were doing, and it was getting increasingly obvious that it was counter to the rest of the corporate policy. So this week they announced they're disbanding the iAd team, and it's going to become programmatic, so that you won't really be, Apple won't be going out and trying to sell ads anymore. They'll just be providing a platform for people like iMore to use if we want to put our content in use, or for developers to use if they want to put it in apps. I think, Ren, that fits better with the message, the overall message they're giving these days.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the unattributed quote, which is just, we weren't good at it, and it's too many pots for Apple to be in, honestly. It's too many things for them to be handling at one time. If you look at what Apple is really good at, cloud services is not super high up on the list, and cloud ad delivery services is probably not very high either. Now, it's interesting to me from a news app perspective, because I know that they were talking about iAds being an integral part of that for folks who didn't want to have to sell their own advertising and their own advertising blocks. So I wonder if there just wasn't a lot of supreme interest on that front, and that was kind of the last straw for the iAds team. It's just, we just don't have enough work for you guys.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's enough that Apple can do without having to do everything. I think there's a lot of value in not trying to do everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They found their
Less is
focus.
more. Less is more. And one of the things that we will soon be getting more from is better sleep.
Yay!
Oh, so let's just preface this by saying that we woke up on Tuesday and Apple released all the preview things.
Yes, which is lovely. So one of the things that we're going to get to experience is, so the problem with using your cell phones when you go to sleep is that during the daytime, yellow light creates an increase in our secretion of something we call melatonin. Melatonin is our body's way of becoming tired throughout the night. Blue light, so light from the moon, and when it gets darker, that builds up our levels of histamine. And that's what wakes us up. That's why an antihistamine, if you take it, makes you tired. And so when you use your phone, you're getting it's in the blue light spectrum, and so it's actually building up histamine, which is going to keep you awake. And so this is what I do videos on how to sleep better, and I'm always saying one of the best things to do is to turn off your tech at night. Well, the wonderful thing is I'm not going to have to because Apple has now implemented what we're going to have is going to be what they're going to do is they're going to be checking out what time it's at nighttime where you live, and then your phone is going to turn on to the yellow light spectrum at nighttime, which will continue to build up your levels of melatonin in your system and help you go to sleep. Now, it's not going to be better than actually turning off your phone. It's still going to be better to keep your phone off, but it's not going to be as bad as it used to be, which will help you be able to go to sleep more easily. And so this, for people that are night owls, is going to be wonderful. Before, you would have had to get an application that would switch the light spectrum on your phone for you. They didn't work really well, and sometimes they messed up different websites. They also used up a lot more of my battery power. And so this is going to do it. You're not going to have to worry about thinking about it, and it will help you sleep better.
That's a really dumb question. Like, how much do you need? Because I'm trying the beta, and it's a beta, so it could change. But when I put it on, it can get really yellow, like almost like Western Bonanza paper yellow.
Well, the more within the yellow spectrum it is, the better it is for you, and it's something that you would probably get used to. We're used to seeing our whites being really white and the darks being exceptionally dark, but the more in the yellow spectrum, it's actually better for you. And if it's, I think you're getting tired already. Is that from me?
No.
Am I in the yellow light spectrum? Is that what you're saying?
Because I have all this blue light. I'm not getting any sleep. I need glasses like Serenity has.
Yeah, I've got that blue light glasses right now. I don't need a iOS 9.3's fancy light shift.
That'll work.
Probably not.
That'll help, but then you want to make sure that you can also wake up in between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But you want it to be, the more the better it is, and you'll adjust to it. It won't bother you as much. It'll become something that's just natural.
Yeah, it's interesting because they put out the iOS 9.3 preview, the Apple Watch 2.2 preview, Apple TV 9.2 preview, and the OS 10 10.11.3 or 4. I forget what number we're on now. So there's just a ton of stuff to go through. And the watch, for example, you can now pair 2 watches to one iPhone, which is, well, you will be able to when it becomes public, which is kind of awesome. And it's not like a day and a night watch, but some people do have more than one watch. Like, they have a fancy watch to go out with, and they have a sport watch that they want to exercise with. And I'm super happy that they're doing this. And this, Ren, is really different than how they used to treat betas.
Oh yeah, no, it's strange because initially they were very stringent on no extra Apple Watches. You got one, and then you have to repair the other, and then you're done. But I appreciate this. I think it's less for the people who want to have an evening watch and a day watch, and more to prep people for, we're releasing a new Apple Watch. Perhaps you would like to buy a second one.
Yeah, and then you don't have to go through the nightmare of like, you can have them both paired for a while if you're still getting used to it, or if you want to have then you get a second watch. I like it. What I really like, though, is the 9.3 for education, and this, like, there's rumors that Apple was working on this for a long time. I would have expected it to be like an iOS 10 thing, but now it's in iOS 9.3, and it's like, there's some things they're doing here. If you're not familiar with it, I'll put a link in the show notes because there's just a ton of really great stuff there. But they're really trying to make the iPad more useful for people in schools, and by schools they mean K to 12, and that's a huge, like, Georgia, those kids are, a kid in kindergarten has completely different set of abilities to interact with something than a kid in grade 12. And, like, for example, passwords, like a kid in high school, they can type in their iCloud password to log in, they can type in a passcode to unlock the device. But for kindergarten kids, they sort of combine those together, and they get one short code that they type in, and it logs them in and unlocks the device at the same time. And that kind of stuff is cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I used to be a teacher, and that's what the setup is what burns you out with time. And so when you're setting up technology, if you have to go to each and every desk, find out what is their password, log them in, check if they're in the right program, are they surfing the net and doing something else that they shouldn't be? That's a huge time sieve for a teacher, and I think that that was one of the reasons that many teachers did not enjoy using technology in the classroom. And so Apple is making it really easy so that you can make sure that everyone's logged in, they're on the right program, you can, monitor how they're doing with that with minimal need for interaction of walking around the classroom and getting them set up so they're actually starting off and doing the work. And so I think that it's a smart idea. I think that even though there are some pros and cons to having technology in the classroom, I think that Apple is making sure that it is as effortless as possible and that people can get to work and stay at work as easily as possible at the same time.
Yeah, it's just there's so much really clever stuff, and you open up the iPad and you see all the kids can log in based on their face. The teacher sees the avatar of the child with what apps they're doing, and if you have you can launch kids into apps. So instead of telling every kid take out your iPad, launch Safari, you can push Safari to all those iPads. You could say there's a math app, and you can actually lock it to that app so the kid doesn't press the home button by accident or on purpose and go into another app.
Suddenly
and
they're surfing the web instead of using the math, which is so great. I think that a lot of people at home are going to be doing the same thing. That's what I want. I want that to be able to say, if I'm doing work with my kids, lock them to this application. So hopefully this will be the home version as well.
Well, you can do it with, what is it called? They have, it's one of the accessibility features that you can lock.
Guided access.
Yeah, so you could do it. But that was teachers tried using it, but it was, again,
it's
a very
manual. Pain. Yeah, you have to
go
to
every
each and every one, and then you have to go to every single one to unlock it.
Yeah, and this basically automates all of that, and there's a lot of great features for managing it. So schools can do it more easily. Teachers can reset passcodes right in the classroom. They don't have to wait for IT to come out. And apparently, rumor has this is just the beginning, that Apple's working on ways to make it even easier, so that you almost never have to call IT. You can just, a kid can come in and just take an iPad and it's theirs. And they're using their nearline technology. So if I use an iPad one day and then Georgia uses it the next, it just stores my stuff for as long as it can before wiping it out if Georgia needs the space. But then if I go back to it, it'll re-download it. Almost like how, I love this one, it's like how iCloud Photo Library and Music Library works and on-demand resources. It's like they're putting the same technology everywhere.
Yeah, it's building on the resources that Apple has been taking a long time to kind of put together. It's like they're making the pyramid of all of these great things.
Yeah, no, so super clever. And I told the story in the article I wrote, but I was at WWC a couple of years ago, and one of the engineers was talking, and they have student scholarships every year, and the student came up and he said, why are you at Apple? You could be at Facebook, you could be at a startup, you could be making a lot more money. And the engineer said, I'm at Apple because every year we get to submit ideas that we want to work on, the same way that Phil Schiller's team will submit ideas, and they go in the same pile. And I really want to make a difference in education, and I believe that if I present it, I'll get a chance to do that. One engineer at Apple can release a feature, and some of the features we use today, some of the most important features in the history of iOS, a single engineer came up with those and submitted them, and they got through, and they really felt they had an ability to change the lives of hundreds of millions of people. And that's why they were there, and I think that's really awesome.
Incredible.
Yeah, so the education preview, super glad we're going to be seeing that. The Apple Watch thing, I kind of skipped ahead there a little bit. I apologize, but Ren, there was a research paper that came out that said about 50% of the wearables market is currently Apple's, about 10% is Android, but nobody's really doing a ton with this yet. But you put up a post about what you're still doing with your Apple Watch.
Yeah, so I had actually, before the study came out, I had been seeing some rumblings from friends and family on Twitter, just being like, I don't know if I like my Apple Watch as much as I used to, and I don't, I'm not really sure what I still should be using it for. And I've been meaning to write this post for a while. 9 months in, this is how I'm still working with my Apple Watch, and this is why I still enjoy wearing it. And it's a couple things for me. And as I said in the article, I think the primary one, which is a silly one, is find my iPhone.
Oh, great!
I don't think that's silly at all. I think that is.
It's a stress reliever.
Yeah, it's so wonderful, even just knowing that even if I'm not wearing my watch, I will search for my watch because I know where my watch is to find my phone. I would love to do the reverse. Find my watch on my
Apple remote.
Exactly. I would love to be able to do
Find
all
my
three.
Apple
That would
Pencil.
be.
Just find all my things.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
find all my. I
Find
need
my
that.
anything with Bluetooth in it, please.
But
But yeah,
I think that is a great feature.
it is. And alone, it might not be worth $350, but as part of as part of a unified watch, it actually works really, really well. Complications is another big one. When they released third-party complications, I found a couple that just work really, really well for me, and I've gone off from there. The ones I talked about in the article, I've got Carrot Weather displaying my weather preview, and not only does Carrot Weather work with time travel, so I can scroll forwards and it can tell me, oh, it's going to be a high of like 41, 42, partly cloudy, wow clouds, LOL gloomy clouds, and it makes snarky responses to you as you see the weather. I had all hail the sun at one point yesterday, which was pretty hilarious. In general, I really like the time travel complications, especially when it's weather related, because it allows me at 7 in the morning before I've gotten out of bed to just swoosh my little digital crown and say, oh, okay, the high is going to be 60 degrees, so I can probably put on, clothing that doesn't require 5 layers and a scarf. Or, oh, it's going to be 11 degrees today? Okay, I'm just not getting out of bed. Fahrenheit, I should specify. And there's also a great little app called Just Press Record that I can't live without. I love this app. And it's just a little button on your Apple Watch's clock face, that when you press it, you jump into an app that just has a big giant red record button, and it will start recording, and then all you have to do is speak or let it listen to the room tone, and it will record voice memos for you. And once you tap finished, it will automatically send them to your iPhone and store them in iCloud Drive. So I've been using those a lot. I said in the article, I've been using those a lot while I've been driving, because it's really, when you're driving, trying to dictate text is really hard because Siri is just not good enough yet. But I can I can dictate everything to Just Press Record and get an audio file of, oh, I had this great idea for an article, or oh, I want to try this drill at roller derby practice, or oh, I had this idea for the stuff that I'm teaching, and then come back to it when I'm not behind a wheel and actually be like, okay, let me write this up so I actually have meaningful things. It's also really a good excuse to practice accents, which I've also been doing in the past, practicing the incomparable radio theater accents. But that's a great little feature for it. Other things, activity continues to be a big thing for me. I really appreciate the watch yelling at me to stand and to move and to walk around, because when you work at home, it's very easy to get glued onto a screen for 8 hours and not be able to be like, just one more sentence.
I use it to remind me to drink water too. So every time it goes off, I stand up and I go get some.
That's a good idea.
We're just being Siri attacked.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies.
I think I said seriously, and it all went to heck. Yeah, I am really grateful for the stand and activity notion, sort of notifications, and on top of that, it's been really nice to. I have an app called Heartwatch on the phone now that I discovered from Federico Battici over at Mac Stories. And that taps into your Apple Watch's heart data to give you kind of a running average over the last 8 weeks of your health information. And that's been really helpful for me for stress training, and just for keeping a general eye on things. So for activity, I think it's still a really, really good resource and a good feature. And if you're logging especially, it's a lot easier to tap like a little button on your watch than it is to remember to pull out your phone and do that and do this. Siri is great when it works. I discovered a couple of quick tips, which I'll give later in the podcast. But when Siri is actually listening to you, their transcription is quite good.
Yeah.
And I've been sending a lot of stuff via Siri, especially just walking around the house when I'm like, I don't want to type a thing. Well, I'm going to let the dogs out or anything like that.
I tried to see how long my iPhone 6s Plus battery would go, and I lasted 2 days, but then I had to plug it into charge, but it was the morning, and I still had to work, so I had a bunch of other stuff. I had people coming over, I had to cook stuff at the same time, and it was going to be hugely stressful to me because I didn't want to. Anyways, I ended up doing my Apple Watch only. I left my iPhone in my room. I was going around. I was telling Siri to control the home automation stuff I have. I was setting timers for the cooking. I was answering text messages, and it was really cool. Email is still a little bit of a struggle, so I kind of deferred those to later. But for a lot of things, I managed to survive an entire morning just with an Apple Watch. An Apple Watch to me is usually a convenience. It just makes everything faster and easier to do. But I wouldn't do it all the time, but I was surprised at how useful it's become just as a general purpose, connected to the rest of the world device.
It really has. I'm very, very thankful for it. And finally, my big thing is notification
Yeah.
assimilation. It's just, I've turned off most notifications from my Apple Watch, which means the only ones that go here are the ones that I actually want to read. And from there are only like specified VIPs that actually buzz my watch. So I've managed to get rid of my, something's here? Ooh, something's here. And actually just, enjoy going out. Sometimes I'll honestly leave my phone at home and just go out with my watch. Just trust that nothing's gonna burn down.
Oh, yeah. No.
I probably don't use my watch for as many things as both of you do. I mainly use it to, make sure that I'm checking my text if there's something that's really important. My dad's in the hospital right now, so it's nice when I'm in session I can get my, make sure that everyone's safe. If there's something really important, I will catch to it. I love the fact that I can answer the phone calls and know, who's going to be there right away. So for me, the watch is just that feeling of security that I can still be connected, and if there's an emergency, I'm there, but it lets me be free without having to feel like I'm missing out, or if there's something important, I may not have gotten it. I've often been caught, going out, or I'm shopping, or I'm doing something, and I don't have my watch with me, and someone was like, my husband's usually like, did you get chips? I was hoping that you got chips, and I lost all the texts until I got into my car and I'd already left, and I thought, you know what, that's what's so nice about the watch, is it gives me the freedom to be able to get the things that are important. If you have that phone call from someone, you're like, you know what, that can wait. You're able to do that, and you don't have to worry about it. And if there's an emergency, I'll be able to know right away. And so I love that feeling of comfort and still being connected without having your phone kind of rule your life. And so that's what I appreciate most about the watch, and it does it really wonderfully well.
It was funny this week because there was a State of the Union and Nancy Pelosi got caught checking her Apple Watch during Obama's talk, and then Jeb Bush was being interviewed and his watch started to ring. And even though he loves his Apple Watch, has been talking about it for months, he didn't know it could take phone calls. So he was like, "Oh my God, I'm living in the future."
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So one of the things that's not quite in the future yet is the Siri remote. I took a stab at redesigning it earlier just to make it easier to use, and Marco Armand had a really good suggestion for it too, and that is just reject any input on the touch sensor unless you press it first, because we've all been there. Like, you pick it up and you accidentally swipe it, or you put something down on the table and it swipes it, and suddenly you're scrolling.
Yeah, it's awful. We were watching Spy on the couch, and we just like shifted, and the remote happened to be like near one of our legs and jumped backwards 30 minutes, and I was like, no!
And you have to press menu to stop it, but nobody knows that, so you panic and you press what you touched, and then you're just stuck there.
If you're in the dark, you don't know what you're pressing either. It's something that you have to kind of have that muscle memory to which button it is, and I think that Marco said a beautiful thing, is that the remote should be something that is safe to you. You shouldn't have to think that you can't leave it in your hand or you can't have it close to you, because you might ruin the viewing experience, and for certain movies and films when you're really involved, to have it jump back or forward does ruin the effect of enjoying the experience of whatever you're watching. And so I love the idea of having it be something that you can then keep the remote in your hand without worrying that you're going to be distracting whatever's happening from the screen at the same time.
Yeah, because I don't think you need it. I tried to try as many situations as I could, and there's never a situation where if I wanted to scrub, I would not be willing to press the button first. Like, I guess the idea is so that you can scrub while still watching, but I would be willing to give that up for not having it start to scrub when I didn't want it. It feels too accident prone.
The cost is too great for the benefit.
Absolutely. All right, so we have a few tips and tricks. Ren, you mentioned yours earlier, and these I actually started using these immediately, and they were super helpful.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, so when I was talking about, making Siri reliably trigger on the Apple Watch, this changed my life. In that discovering that if you press and hold the digital crown in while you're talking, I can be like, "Hey Siri, here's a thing and another thing, and I want you to keep listening to me, even
like
if I pause."
Remote style.
Yeah. So this one's actually still going. I still have it plugged in or pushed in, so it's still going. My phone heard the initial hey and decided to respond.
I do
But yeah,
hey now. Yeah.
but the beauty is, as long as you hold in the digital crown while you're talking to Siri on your watch, Siri will keep listening even if you're pausing. So I love doing this if I'm listing something, or if I'm just not sure what I want to say, or even if I just want to make sure that Siri's listening to me. It's that was huge. Also, if you want to trigger Siri with the hey command, it works by waking the screen. So if you have wrist raise turned on, sometimes when that happens, the window will close before you can actually say hey. So my trick is always just to cover the screen and then tap on it to turn it back on, and then issue your command, and that will work pretty much 100% of the time. If you like triggering Siri with a hey command versus triggering it with a button. And lastly, I'm wearing the watch like this right now as a test. Craig Hockenberry came up with the reverse crown implementation. You can see the crown and the side button are actually on my left rather than on my right. It's basically wearing the watch upside down. This, while it looks a little funny, I've actually really grown to like it. And on top of that, the microphone and the speaker are both on this side now, or on the right side. So when I go to speak, the microphone is basically lined up directly with my mouth, whereas before I kind of had to do this, like
Right.
the awkward quirk angle, and now I really feel like a secret agent being like, hello. This is
That, you know what? I wonder if that would be a good implementation for Apple, period, is to switch the spot, because people aren't really spinning the crown as much as they would be depressing it. I like the idea.
Yep.
And if nothing else, it lets you say, "Hey Siri, can you beatbox?"
Here's one I've been practicing: boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats and boots. I could do this all day. Cats and boots and 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 cats.
Oh, Siri, never change.
Never
Oh,
change.
Siri, please change. Please change. That was horrible. Don't beatbox anymore, please.
So
So
good.
what should you do instead, Georgia?
Okay, but this would be cool. So if you love to read articles, and I do this a lot when I'm driving in and I have to go through a whole bunch of articles that are on the screen, you can use accessibility to turn on VoiceOver by double swiping down from the screen, and so it's going to read to you whatever web page you are on. Now, don't do what I just did during the podcast, which is by mistake click on VoiceOver, which then gets everything you type on the screen. It will keep on saying whatever you're actually like touching, which is, I'm sure there are uses for that, but don't by mistake press that, because getting out of it is a nightmare and caused me a mild panic attack. But being able to have web pages read to me really effortlessly and easily is something that I use when I'm traveling, something that I use when I need to have different articles that I'm going to be looking up.
So how do you
And
do it? Sorry, I
love
missed how you do
that.
it. How do you do it?
So you're going to go into accessibility, and then from there you're going to go not over to VoiceOver, but down to speech. And then you're going to do speak screen. And so then what's going to happen, so there we go, you're on speak. And then you're going to press speak screen, and then when you swipe down with 2 fingers, it's going to say whatever's on the web page.
That's so awesome. I actually use the VoiceOver for how-to articles when I don't know what a button is. I just put it in VoiceOver mode, tap the button, and it will tell me what the name of the button
It's
is.
getting it out of VoiceOver mode that stresses me out, because I tap it only once, not double tap it, and then I tap it again to try to stop it, but then it just keeps on. Here, I'll show you what happens just because it's so traumatic.
Is it going to be Boots and Cats traumatic?
Oh, God. Okay.
Settings. Accessibility. Access 2 of 5 bars. Signal 2 of 5.
It kind of does sound like she's beatboxing.
VoiceOver. Access voice.
Ba-ba-da-ba-da-bum.
Voice
Awesome.
accessibility.
Okay, I'm going to turn that off now.
VoiceOver.
Oh, God.
What I've been
Double
using
click to turn it off.
what I've been using mostly with Siri lately is I'll just say, instead of just saying call Georgia, I'll say call Georgia speaker, and then it'll automatically put it in speaker. Especially
That's a
useful
good one.
because we have hands-free driving laws in Quebec and a lot of other provinces now too. So I don't touch my phone, but I can have it there mounted and just say, call Georgia, FaceTime Serenity speaker, and it just works. It's
You
terrific.
know what? I think that that's a really great idea because I use my car, and I will have to say my car has its own speaking system to it, but it's really which you wouldn't think that this is possible, but it's like 100 times worse than Siri. So sometimes I'm trying to say the number, and it'll be like 3338256, and I'm
For
like, I
people
never
just
said
joining
five
us,
six.
Georgia does not have contacts. She actually still remembers everyone's number and dials it manually
I
every
do. I
time.
have contacts too, but on my car, it's much easier because it'll never get someone's name right, and then I'll dial some stranger, which is
Even
really
before, well,
embarrassing.
okay, I won't get into it. Even before Siri, she would dial by number, and it would
Yes,
freak me
that's
out because
true.
nobody remembers
That's true.
numbers anymore.
But who do you go to when you need to remember what's
You,
your
of
number?
course. That's why.
Well, there we go. There's a
Learned
benefit
helplessness.
to this.
All right, so I have more of a complaint than a tip, which I think is perfectly
Ooh,
justified,
Oh yeah.
and that is
like this.
Apple News. So Apple News, like one of the problems with Apple, like the great thing is they do the surprise and delight thing when they come up on stage and say, "We've got Apple News now." But Apple News, to get that, has to be a secret project. And the same thing with the -1 screen on the iPhone. So you swipe and you get Siri suggestions, also a secret project. But because they're all secret, nobody knows. And Guy English wrote a great article about this a few years ago, where they're like, "Hey, you should go and integrate with Grenada." What's Grenada? Don't you people talk to each other? No, we don't. You haven't been disclosed? No, who's been disclosed? But it's really like that. So now iOS 9 ships, and we have suggested news in Siri that has nothing to do with the better version of suggested news in News, which has nothing to do with the social stuff that's shared in Safari or stuff that I've saved in Safari. So what I'd really like to see is in iOS 10 for Apple to make News as a service. The big thing with iOS 9 was making photos as a system level service. I just want News. So I launched the News app. I set it up. It has the For You section. That's what's shown inside inside the Siri suggestion page. And with iOS 9.3, it's even better because they have some curation going on and some trends going on. So it really is a much higher quality news feed. But then at the same time, Safari has these shared links. So anything, I follow you guys on Twitter. So any articles you tweet show up in that list. So that can get filtered into this as well. And it also has Safari reading lists. So I can save articles that I actually really do want to read, and there's also saved articles in News which aren't the same. So I just want all of this to be a core system level service that just gets surfaced in all those places but is unified. That would make me so super happy.
Agreed.
We like Rene happy.
Hmm.
All right, we have a little bit of feedback, some real-time feedback. This is from Gardner VH on Twitter, Georgia. He says that the night shift is great, but it's only working on 64-bit processors. So the original iPad Mini and things like the iPhone 5 don't get it.
Right. But eventually this is better for, and it hurts your head less if you're using your iPad Mini instead you use your phone and you hit your head against the iPad Mini. It hurts more. So you shouldn't probably be using that in bed anyways. Plus it's a larger screen. The larger the screen, the more light you're getting from it. So smaller is also better in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, and eventually those devices will fall off the market, and then all devices will have these features. Serenity TW Shepard says that if you want to be able to launch Authy with Siri, you have to say open all caps AUTHY, and I tried it. It actually works.
Yeah, I forget about the all caps command, which actually forces it to listen to it letter by letter by letter. This is a great tip and one that I'm going to be using.
So by the time you're finished spelling everything, I would have just pressed the button.
Well, I tried Authy, I tried Authy, I tried so many things. They would say, I don't know Authy, I don't know. Like it was not working with me on this. It was working against me. But spelling things out, that is super awesome. We have a few Ask iMores today. Some of them are iOS 9 troubleshooting things, and the only thing I'll say about this is, and the same thing about app problems, it's a beta. You know it's a beta when you sign up for it, so there will be problems. And apps might not work right. Please don't give developers bad reviews. It's not their fault. You decided, you're an adult. You decided to use beta software. Also, if things aren't working, beta software.
Beta software.
It's hard. And there is a slight warning, though. Some people are reporting problems with Apple Pencil in 9.3. So if Apple Pencil is super important to you, do not put it on your iPad Pro. All right, so Shovel wants to know, I use an aux cord for my car stereo. If no aux port, sorry, so if there's no, I guess headset jack is what they're talking about, in iPhone 7, you would need a lightning adapter for your car. I think so, right?
Yes, you just get a lightning to aux or lightning to headphone jack adapter. You'd be fine.
Hmm. Yeah, so my big thing about this is the same as last time when they went from the 30 pin dock adapter to the lightning adapter. Is they did make an adapter, but it did not get into stores on time. And that's horrible. Like if you're going to change something, it has to be in stores on time. And some people would buy the new phone with the lightning cable, damage or lose their lightning cable, and you couldn't buy lightning cables. You couldn't buy adapters. They couldn't charge their phone, and that happened. That lasted for a week or so. Super horrible.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's a good point, Rene.
Get them in stores fast.
Yeah, get them in stores fast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so Stephen wants to know, why don't I look at the camera when I'm talking? This is actually Google Hangouts thing. So I see Georgia and Serenity at the bottom right of my screen, and because I'm a human and I'm trained to look at the other humans I'm talking to, my gaze tends to go down to where I see Georgia and Serenity.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this as well.
See, I don't look at either of you.
Gaze into the
I actually, if it's, I try to put, so that I'm staring as close to it, but I'm just kind of just looking at you in peripheral and not staring directly at you. So I'm losing a little bit of the visual cues that you may be giving me, like, stop, Georgia, stop. I'm not, if you notice I'm not reacting to that, it's
okay. Well,
so I just made the Hangout window super small, so now you guys are both up top near the camera.
There we go.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Let me see, Rene. Look at where it is now.
How's that? Is that better?
Oh, that's better.
Better-ish, yeah.
Better-ish.
So I gotta do that.
We're so cued. It's interesting, but I'll just give a little tiny psychology point to it, is that so we interact really strongly with eye cues, and most of the information that you get from conversation is visual cues that you give. So if you're not directly looking at people, the reason that it bothers you is that you feel like the people that are listening in or watching, not listening in, because then you'll get mostly the intonation through our verbal cues, but the people that are watching the show will feel like you are not really giving them attention. They don't feel as connected to you. And so it's an interesting reason that it bothers people at all, but it does. The same reason that if you're having a very deep conversation with someone and they're looking away, you will notice, because it used to be the difference between a threat and a submission assessment to what other people are doing. So looking directly at the camera does help form a connection with the viewers that are listening to that, and then they will feel more important and that you are directly speaking to them.
So when I get interviewed in all those shows, they always say look like a little bit off camera. They want me looking like at someone standing next to the camera.
Well, yeah. Well, when you're doing interview reaction shows, it's the trick of, oh, I'm looking at that person rather than, oh, I'm looking into a dead screen.
Right. But they know that we're, looking.
Don't stare at the audience. They're nervous enough as it is. Don't look at them directly. Don't meet them in the eyes.
Don't smile. Don't smile. That means that you're going to attack. Yes.
All right, so Rick wants to know continuum-like functions for the iPhone versus AirPlay to a monitor with Bluetooth peripherals. Will this happen? So what I think he's talking about here, Ren, is Microsoft has this new feature where you can basically plug your phone into a display with a keyboard and a mouse, and it works like a computer.
Yeah, no. I think handoff and continuity is as close as we're going to get to that.
Yeah, like maybe like in 10 years or something, who knows? But Ubuntu tried this with the Ubuntu phone. Palm tried this, I think, a long time ago with a bunch of companies have tried this, and there's no sign it works well yet. I'm sorry. Nope. It's just the limits of technology. Georgia, Eric Peterman wants to know, what is your favorite watch case? I guess he means like which color case, and like rose gold or silver or black do you like best? And what is your most used band these days?
So I'm just getting actually a new band. So I'm still using my Pioneer band that is the Samurai right now, but I've ordered a new one that's going to be the closest to a jewelry band that I can get, but it's going to have a silver plate that will be on each side, and it has a dragon on it, which is so
neat.
Cool. Yeah, I'm so excited about it. So that's being ordered, and hopefully it'll be here really soon. And my favorite watch casing is the black one because it will go with anything. But for the next watch, I am thinking, though I probably won't, but I was thinking about going with a rose gold. But I probably won't because it does not match with everything that I wear. If I'm wearing silver or gold, it does stand out. But Rose gold is just so pretty. I'm thinking I could rock rose gold and have silver on at the same time. I'm going to think about it. It's going to be rose gold or black, though.
What about you, Ren?
I dig the gold and the rose gold casing. I wore a gold version of the Sport around for a while, and I quite liked it. Right
Do you
now,
wear a lot of silver, Serenity, and would that bother you?
I've got that as my big silver thing.
Which is a very important silver thing.
Yeah. I don't normally wear a ton of jewelry, but I have enough silver things on it that I don't think it clashes. I actually think because of the shade of gold that it is, it's I feel like a nice contrast rather than it's not so yellow that it's like attention. It's a softer, muted, like early iPhone gold, which I really appreciate. For me, I'm a Sport fan. I feel like the steel casing, which I'm wearing now, is a little bit too heavy. I really like the Formace, the fake Hermes bands that you can get on Amazon. The real Hermes bands are pretty nice too, but may not be in your price range. And I am still a fan of the modern buckle. I think that looks great. It's one of my favorite Apple-made bands, and I really like Pad and Quill's simple, thin classic buckle. I think they did a really good job on that.
I'm still waiting for a nice, classy, bracelet-y, like girly band to be able to wear out. So if someone's making that, or if you know of one, like send me a tweet, please, because I want to pick one up.
I don't know.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm going to skip this one first. Alejandro Sanabria wants to know, how do the apps on the Apple TV get updated? And we've got this question a lot because it's not the same process. People expect there to be, you have these many updates and you go install them, but they just sort of self-install. The next time you launch it, it'll be the new version of the app. It's completely automated on, which would drive Georgia crazy, of course, but it's completely automated on the Apple TV.
It's like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
I want to know. I want to know what he's doing.
Yep.
Yeah, no, so I think there's a dot or something that you'll see. There's some indicator. I forget exactly what it was because I haven't seen that many of them, but there's a dot or something that tells you the app has been updated. Ren, this is a fair question. Prometheus Tech wants to know, will Apple Bluetooth headphones, if they do produce them for the iPad, for the theoretical iPhone 7 that has no 3.5 millimeter headset jack, if Apple makes Bluetooth headphones with this, will they go the same way as the original Apple Bluetooth earpiece from the original iPhone?
Will they be buggy and be terrible and eventually be discontinued? I'm hoping not, because they have Beats as their back end. I'm hoping they've learned a little bit about manufacturing earpieces and ear technology since then. Fingers crossed.
Don Lages, I hope I got that right, Lages. What's the best stand for the Apple Watch?
Forge.
Yeah,
I really like the Forge.
Yeah, is it Forge or Forte?
Forte.
I think it's Forte. Yeah, 12 cells.
Yes.
I'm using the Griffin one. It's really nice. It's not as pretty.
The Griffin one is also really nice. I was actually going to recommend the Griffin if you want to do a dual dock. Their dual dock charger is very nice. Yeah.
And they have a place for your, it's simple. It's not as fancy looking.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Eric Slavin, will the iPhone 7 have an OLED screen? If you had asked me a couple of years ago, I would have probably said yes, especially
that's because you're in the future and that.
No, because Apple was working on OLED for the watch, and it makes sense to bring it to the phone because there are power-saving implications. With the difference is with OLED, you don't need a backlight. You don't need an LED backlight, and that's on or off. The minute it's on, everything is on. There's no discretion there. But with OLED, you can only turn on the pixels you want to use, so it takes much less power, especially if there's a lot of dark colors on the screen, which is why the watch has a black interface. But now Apple uses the LED backlight to measure the distortion in the screen, the microscopic distortion in the screen for 3D touch. That's how it knows what you're pressing and how hard you're pressing it, is using the LED. So if you take that out, they have to have an alternative for that. And if they had an alternative to that, why wouldn't they use it? I mean, it creates a level of complication. Also, Quantum Dot, which is a new technology for displays, is getting really good, and in some ways it has the benefits of OLED, but without some of the drawbacks like the different lifespans of the blue color and the oversaturation. OLED is getting better too, so we have these competing technologies now. But I don't know if 3D Touch will allow OLED in the iPhone 7.
TBD.
Long drawn-out technical answer to say, dunno.
Plug.
All right, thank you everyone for writing in. If you do want to write in with a question, a comment, follow-up, anything like that, you can either put it in Twitter, try to include the hashtag the hashtag #AskIMore. It makes it super easy to find. Otherwise, we get a ton of questions. Not a humble brag. We get a ton of questions all the time, and it's hard to know which ones are meant for the podcast. So just stick hashtag #AskIMore in your social network of choice, and we'll find it. You can also email podcast@imore.com, or just leave a comment under the video on YouTube or on the blog post on iMore, and we will find it. We had several from all of those in here today. Whew. After all of this, Serenity, when you are not out hunting for memes and clues, where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Settern, Settern, and on Instagram, as well as on imore.com, and occasionally on theincomparable.com, where we've been discussing all sorts of fun things.
Awesome. Georgia, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at Georgia_Dow, and if you're dealing with anxiety issues and or sleep-related problems, we're going to be having a new video out soon. You can check us out at anxiety-videos.com. But before we finish up, Rene, I wanted to congratulate you because you have been given a promotion, and you are now also, sort of, yes, you have. You are now also the executive editor of all of Mobile Nations, which is awesome. They could not have a better executive editor. So send everyone your congratulations, please, to Rene.
Yay, Rene.
He's very...
very shy.
Everyone in the house is that, yes, you're very humble, but this is a big deal, and you deserve it.
Thank you so much.
I love how hard it is for you to take that. Look at how he's blushing.
Yep.
He's actually blushing. Send him lots of tweets so that he blushes even more.
Oh, God. The worst. The worst. You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find all of us at iMore. You can find the show on iTunes or on YouTube. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. And please keep continuing. We got a lot of great feedback about the audio quality last week, so keep sending it in. We're making massive efforts to improve all of this for everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Serenity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.